What up, my friends, and welcome back to another installment of the MMA channel with me, Marisol. Naturally, today we're going to be talking about the upcoming fights, UFC 261, which is going to be insane. I am so hyped for this fight this weekend because holy hell, we're going to have so many amazing fights happening in this one card. 3 championship fights are on the line, 3 championship belts are on the line, and they're with fighters that I have just been like hyping for like years already. If you've been following this channel, then you definitely know that I am basically a Valentina Shevchenko fangirl, as well as Zhang Weili. I think it was back in like 2019, 2018. I did a video talking about how she was going to just be rising really quickly in the ranks, and like here we are in 2021. Back in 2020, she was champ, is champ, and I'm going to be predicting what will be happening in these 3 fights. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first up is Usman versus Masvidal. This is actually a second fight that's going on between these 2 fighters. They have fought before, just last year actually. And in that fight, we did see Usman remain champion. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be much more of the same, even though now we do have Masvidal, who has much more time in terms of leading up to this fight, has more of a camp actually. But ultimately, I do think that Usman is going to be the better fighter on Saturday. I hope, ideally, it would be amazing if Usman would use more of his wrestling and actually keep the fight on the ground. Because we actually did see some of that take place in the first fight, where Usman was really dominant once it came to actually applying his wrestling background. He was able to really control Masvidal in the clinch, able to control him on the ground much more readily than he was when the fight was standing. So I think that if you were to use that, hone in on that actually, and just apply that aspect even more this time around, that he'd be able to actually end the fight much more quickly. If he were to actually go for the submission, which most likely might just be like a ground and pound a la Khabib kind of a thing, but I think that if he actually went for the submission and actually kept Masvidal on the ground, the fight could be over much more quickly. But ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if it went to decision, though my prediction is that Usman will remain champ. So next up on the card is Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas, and this fight is going to be so good. So it's amazing to see Rose back in the octagon and actually like really going forward again. When she was gone for quite a while, I did miss seeing her in there. So that's going to be amazing yet again, and see her go trying to become the champ one more time. She was amazing as champion, and when she lost, it was quite the devastating loss. But now that we have Zhang Weili in there, she has been extremely dominant, actually just dominant in her career for a very long time. And I actually had a bit of a difficult time calling this one when I was looking at like their fighting history, looking at the records and like their different styles and how they match up. And I think this is actually a really well-matched fight. They both are very well-rounded fighters. And I think that if the fight were to remain standing, then definitely Zhang Weili has much more of a chance of not only winning, but actually ending the fight. If it were to go to the ground, I think that it would be much more of a threat for Zhang Weili. However, her grappling is really good, and we've seen her do submissions in the past. But ultimately, I think it would be more of a challenge on the ground for Zhang Weili, and maybe better odds for Namajunas in that realm. But ultimately, I do think that the victor is going to be Zhang Weili because, one, she's on a crazy win streak, like what, 21 fight win streak. On top of that, I think that she has just an amazing fighter spirit about her. She always shows up at the peak of her game, essentially. I've never seen her not come into the octagon ready to just show up for what's actually taking place. So ultimately, I think that she has the right mentality going into it. She has an amazing skill set. She's on a crazy win streak, and I think that she is going to remain the champion. Let me know what you guys think, though. Okay, so lastly, as I already mentioned before, I am a Valentina Shevchenko fangirl. I think she is absolutely amazing. She is scary in the octagon, and she is going to be fighting Jessica Andraj this weekend. And looking at the fight and how they stylistically match up, I was pleasantly surprised at how much of a challenge this is potentially going to be for Valentina. And Valentina has kind of reached that level, like a lot of other fighters, where they have been so dominant for so long that we kind of just wonder who is even there to actually pose a threat and challenge them. And that's when we see them move different weight classes, like we see John Jones moving up to heavyweight. So I feel like Shevchenko has reached that level as a fighter of like who's actually going to challenge her. And that's why we often do talk about like she should just go and fight Amanda Nunes again. But we'll talk about that another time. For now, her fighting Jessica Andraj, I think is a little bit more of a challenge than maybe we're anticipating, especially if we are huge fans of Shevchenko. So I think it might be really interesting. However, I did notice that Andraj does tend to eat shots. And when we pair that with Shevchenko, who is extremely methodical, very precise as a fighter, I think that she's actually going to be able to get in some really clean shots with Andraj. And if we have the same Valentina show up that showed up for the Jessica Eye fight, then maybe we'll get a knockout this Saturday. Who knows? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. It'd be amazing if we did. But ultimately, I do think that even if it goes the distance, that Shevchenko will remain champ. And what she does after that, we'll talk about on Sunday. But yeah, I think ultimately that these fights are going to be amazing. And quite honestly, however it goes, I am so here for it, because I know that these fighters have been training like crazy for these fights. I know that they're all going to show up to, to get that W. So no matter what happens, they're going to do an amazing performance. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know what you guys all think in the comments down below. I'm curious to see who you think is going to win, so go ahead and comment that, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.